There's nothing you need to do right now. You don't need to listen closely. You don't need to remember anything. Don't do anything yet. And you don't need to stay awake. This is Night Letters, a quiet place at the end of the day. Tonight, we'll spend some time in a gentle place, moving slowly, without any rush. You can let the words pass by if you like, or you can follow along for as long as you're comfortable. And if sleep comes, you're welcome to let it. As you arrive here, you may notice the way the light rests in the space, soft, unhurried. The air feels calm, neither too warm nor too cool, just settled. There are distant sounds, nothing close, nothing demanding attention, only reminders that the night is present. The ground beneath you feels steady, supportive, holding you without effort. This place doesn't expect anything from you. It's enough just to be here. The town is already resting. When the night settles into its place, not in a way that feels sudden or final, but gradually, as if the day has finished what it needed to do, and quietly stepped aside. The last traces of movement have faded. Doors are closed, not hurriedly, but with familiarity. Shutters rest against stone walls, fitting where they have fit many times before. Windows are dark, holding the stillness inside. The streets lie open and empty. Their stone surfaces are softened by shadow. They do not shine. They do not draw attention. They simply remain, stretching gently between buildings that know the shape of the night well. A lantern burns near the edge of the square. Its flame is small and steady, sheltered from any breeze. The light it casts is warm, contained, reaching only a short distance before dissolving into darkness. It touches the ground beneath it, then fades, without effort. The watchman walks at an easy pace, not beginning his rounds, not ending them, simply continuing. His steps fall into a rhythm that does not need thought. Each foot meets the stone, the sound quiet and close, absorbed quickly by the street. Nothing echoes here. The town keeps sounds to itself. He passes beneath the lantern without looking up. The light shifts slightly as he moves through it, then settles again behind him, unchanged. His shadow stretches briefly along the wall, then breaks apart and disappears as he continues on. There is no sense of urgency in his movement, no reason to hurry, and no reason to stop. The night does not ask for either. His hand rests easily at his side, fingers relaxed, unoccupied. His breathing remains slow and even, matching the pace of his steps. Without effort, a corner appears ahead, familiar in its shape. He turns it without thinking. The movement practiced and unremarkable. The street beyond looks much like the one before it. Stone walls rise on either side, their surfaces worn smooth in places, rougher in others. The light here is dimmer, but steady enough to move through, without pause. Nothing waits to be noticed. No doors open, no windows shift. The town holds its quiet evenly, as though it has agreed to remain this way for the rest of the night. Another lantern stands near a doorway, farther along the street. Its flame mirrors the first, calm and contained. The door beside it is closed, resting in its frame, unchanged by the passing hours. The watchman slows slightly as he nears it, not to check, not to listen, simply because the space narrows here, and the rhythm adjusts on its own. His steps resume their familiar pattern. Stone beneath, stone beside, stone ahead. The repetition feels natural, expected, offering no surprises. Time does not announce itself. It stretches quietly, unmeasured, unmarked. Above, the sky holds steady. Clouds soften the moonlight, spreading it thinly across the rooftops. The light is enough to reveal outlines, not details, enough to guide, without drawing attention. The town seems comfortable beneath it, settled into its shape. The watchman passes another junction, then another, each one known by feel, rather than sight. His pace remains unchanged. There is no counting of steps, no marking of distance. The rounds flow as they always do, carried by habit rather than intention. He pauses briefly at the edge of a small square, not to observe, not to assess, simply to stand. The stillness here feels complete, held between the surrounding buildings. The lanterns at its corners glow softly, their light overlapping just enough to remove sharp edges from the darkness. After a moment, he moves on again. The pause leaves no trace. The night closes gently behind him. Far away, too distant to identify. A sound rises, then fades. It does not carry far. It does not repeat. The town absorbs it easily, returning to its quiet, without effort. The watchman's steps continue, steady, unremarkable. His posture remains relaxed, shoulders loose, head level. There is no scanning of shadows, no listening for movement. The streets have already said what they have to say. Another turn, another familiar stretch of road. The buildings here lean slightly inward, narrowing the space. The lantern light reaches only partway down the walls, leaving the rest in shadow. The contrast feels soft, incomplete, as though nothing is meant to be fully revealed. Tonight, the watchman walks through it without change. His presence does not disturb the quiet. It fits within it, like a sound that belongs. A doorway passes on his left, then another. Each remains closed. Each looks much like the last. Wood against stone, resting without strain. Nothing shifts behind them. Nothing presses outward. The street opens again, gently, easing into a wider path. The ground here feels the same beneath his feet, firm, and even the rhythm of walking remains unbroken. Time continues to move without calling attention to itself. Moments blend together, difficult to separate. The watchman does not try. There is no need. He slows briefly, then resumes his pace, the change so slight it barely registers. The lanterns ahead remain steady, their flames unchanged by the passing hours. Shadows hold their places along the walls, stretching and resting without movement. The town feels settled now, fully given over to the night. There is no sense of waiting, no anticipation of change. Everything that needed to close has closed. Everything that needed to rest is resting. The watchman continues on, step after step, the path unfolding gently beneath him. The rounds do not feel long or short. They simply are. Nothing has happened. Nothing needs to. The night holds its shape, calm and steady. As the watchman walks on, the street continues without change. Stone beneath the watchman's feet feels the same as before, firm and familiar, offering no resistance and no surprise. Each step settles into the ground quietly, then fades as the next one follows. The sound does not travel far. It stays close, contained within the space around him. Lantern light appears ahead, then passes behind, repeating without pattern or urgency. Each flame glows in its own small circle, steady and patient, illuminating only what is nearby. Beyond that, the darkness remains soft, unbroken, and unconcerned. The watchman's pace remains even, not fast, not slow, simply steady. His breathing stays aligned with his movement, slow and unremarkable. There is no effort in it, no adjustment needed. The air feels cool, but not sharp, resting lightly against his face and hands as he moves through the street. A narrow passage opens between two buildings, and he enters it without hesitation. The walls here rise closer together, their surfaces worn smooth by time. The lantern light thins, stretching longer shadows across the ground. They rest there, unmoving, as if they have been waiting. The watchman passes through, his steps briefly softer here, then returning to their usual sound as the passage widens again. The change does not linger. The rhythm continues, as it always does. Windows remain dark. Shutters stay closed. Nothing stirs behind them. The town feels settled deep into its rest now, the kind of rest that does not shift easily. The hours have moved quietly into place, smoothing away the edges of the day until only stillness remains. Another corner appears, then disappears behind him. Another street opens, long and straight, lined with stone and shadow. The lanterns along it are spaced evenly, their light overlapping just enough to soften the darkness without breaking it. The watchman walks through this gentle pattern, his presence fitting easily within it. He does not look from side to side. There is nothing that asks to be seen. Somewhere, far off, a faint sound drifts and fades. It does not repeat. It does not approach. The town absorbs it without reaction, returning to its steady quiet, as if it had never been there. The watchman's hand shifts slightly at his side, then settles again. The movement is small, unconscious, offering no meaning beyond comfort. His shoulders remain loose, his posture unchanged. Time stretches here in a way that feels unmeasured. Moments pass, but they do not announce themselves. There is no sense of before or after, only the continuation of the night as it unfolds. The street narrows again, guiding him toward a familiar bend. He follows it naturally, the turn flowing into his steps without thought. The lantern at the corner casts a warm glow across the stone, revealing texture for a moment before letting it fade again. The door beside it remains closed, as it has been, as it will remain. The watchman slows just slightly, then resumes his pace. The rhythm continues, uninterrupted. Beyond the turn, the street slopes gently downward. The ground feels the same beneath his feet, steady and even. His steps adjust without effort, maintaining their familiar cadence. Shadows gather along the edges of the buildings here, pooling softly where the light does not reach. They do not shift as he passes. They do not follow. They simply remain. The watchman moves through them, then back into the lantern light, the transition smooth and unremarkable. Nothing changes in response. Another stretch of road opens ahead, wider than the last. The space feels open, but still contained, held gently by the buildings that line it. The night air here feels slightly cooler, brushing against his skin without demand. His breathing remains slow, steady. The sound of his steps continues, familiar and predictable. Each one arrives, then leaves, making room for the next. There is no sense of distance covered, no awareness of how far he has gone, or how far remains. The rounds unfold as they always do, without beginning or end. A lantern flickers once, briefly, then steadies again, The watchman does not react. The flame settles, and the light returns to its quiet glow. The town remains unchanged. Another doorway passes, and another. Each one looks much like the last, resting in stone, closed and still. The repetition feels natural, almost comforting in its sameness. The watchman pauses for a moment at the edge of the street, not stopping fully, just letting his steps slow until they fade. He stands there briefly, his presence blending into the quiet. Nothing happens. After a while, he moves on again, the rhythm returning without effort. The pause leaves no trace behind it. Time continues to pass gently, thinning at the edges. The night feels deeper now, more settled, as though it has fully claimed the town. The lanterns ahead glow softly, unchanged by the passing hours. Shadows remain where they are, stretched comfortably along the walls. The watchman walks on, step after step, the path unfolding beneath him without instruction. There is no sense of progress, only continuation. The town holds its quiet evenly, offering no interruption, no demand. The night remains calm, steady, unremarkable, and the rounds continue, quietly, as they always have. The watchman continues on. His steps remain steady, arriving one after another, with the same quiet sound, the same gentle weight. Stone meets foot, then releases it, over and over, without variation. The rhythm settles into place, easy to follow and easy to forget. Lantern light appears, passes, appears again. Each pool of light feels familiar now, offering no new shape, no new detail. The glow touches the ground briefly, then fades behind him as he moves on. Nothing lingers. His breathing remains slow, aligned with the rhythm of walking, in and out, even unchanged. The town feels deeper into the night now, though there is no clear moment when it happened. The quiet has thickened slightly, settling more firmly between the buildings, along the streets, beneath the lanterns. The watchman turns another corner, then another, each one known by habit rather than sight. The motion feels automatic, guided by memory that no longer requires attention. His body follows the path without instruction. Step, step, step. The sound of movement stays close, contained within the narrow space around him. It does not echo. It does not travel. The town keeps it gently, then lets it go. Doors remain closed. Windows remain dark. He passes them without noticing one from another. Wood and stone repeat themselves along the street, blending together into a familiar pattern that does not ask to be separated. The watchman slows slightly, then resumes his pace. The change is small, unimportant, the kind that happens without thought. The rhythm continues, unbroken. Lantern, shadow, stone. The sequence repeats, calmly, predictably. Each element returns in its turn, then fades away again. Time stretches quietly here. There is no sense of minutes passing, no awareness of hours. The night does not announce itself. It simply continues. His steps carry him forward, then forward again, the distance covered feeling neither long nor short. The path unfolds beneath him without direction, familiar in every part. Another lantern flickers softly, then steadies. The watchman does not look toward it. The light settles on its own, and the night remains unchanged. Breathing continues, slow, even. The watchman's posture remains relaxed, shoulders loose, arms resting easily at his sides. There is no tension in the way he moves, no alertness, no anticipation. The streets narrow slightly, then widen again. The changes happen gradually, without drawing attention. The ground feels the same beneath his feet throughout step, step, step. Each one arrives, then disappears, leaving no trace behind. The town feels still, settled fully into its rest. Nothing stirs behind the walls. Nothing presses against the quiet. The night holds everything evenly. The watchman pauses for a moment, standing where he is. The pause feels natural, unplanned. His steps slow, then stop, then remain still. Nothing changes. The lanterns continue to glow. The shadows remain. After a while, movement returns gently. One step, then another. The rhythm resumes without effort, as though it had been waiting. The same street stretches ahead, looking much like the last. Stone walls on either side. Lanterns spaced evenly. Darkness filling the spaces between. The watchman walks on, his presence blending easily into the pattern of the night. He does not disturb it. He belongs within it. Breathing remains steady, quiet, unremarkable. The sound of his steps repeats again, and again, and again, until it becomes part of the background, easy to lose track of. Time feels softer now, less defined. The edges of moments blur together, making it difficult to tell where one ends and the next begins. The watchman turns another corner, then later, another. The streets repeat themselves gently, offering no new shapes, no new paths. Everything feels known. Lantern light passes across his boots, then fades. Shadow returns, then light again. The pattern continues, smooth and predictable. Step, step, step. The watchman's pace does not change. There is no reason for it to. The night asks for nothing. The town remains quiet, holding its shape without effort. Buildings rest in place. Doors remain closed. Windows stay dark. Another pause arrives, brief and unremarkable. The watchman stands, then shifts his weight slightly, then stands again. Nothing follows. Movement resumes when it feels natural to do so. One step, then another. The rhythm returning as easily as it left. The lanterns ahead glow softly, unchanged. Shadows rest along the walls, undisturbed. The watchman walks on, step after step, the path unfolding beneath him without instruction or expectation. The night continues to deepen. Or perhaps it stays the same. It is difficult to tell. The difference no longer matters. Breathing stays slow, steady, easy. The rhythm of walking remains, carrying him forward without urgency, without intention. Step, step, step. Nothing happens, and the rounds continue, calmly, quietly, as the town rests and the night holds steady. The watchman keeps moving, but more quietly now, as though the night itself has slowed his steps. Each foot meets the stone with less sound than before, not because he is careful, but because there is less need to be heard. Step, pause, step. The rhythm remains, but it has softened. Lantern light still appears along the street, but it no longer asks to be noticed. It glows, then fades, then glows again, without marking the passage of time. The watchman's breathing stays slow, deep, even, in and out. The streets feel familiar enough now that they no longer form clear shapes. Walls rise and fall at the edges of awareness. Not close, not far, just present. The ground beneath his feet feels the same everywhere. Firm, reliable, unchanging. Step, pause, step. The pause grows slightly longer this time. He stands for a moment, then remains standing, without listening, without waiting. Nothing changes. The lanterns remain steady. Shadows hold their places. After a while, movement returns on its own. One step forward, then another. Time feels thinner here, less shaped. Moments no longer arrive clearly. They simply pass, quietly, without leaving marks behind. The watchman turns a corner, or perhaps he already has. The distinction feels less important now. The street ahead looks much like the one behind. Stone, shadow, soft light. His posture remains easy, shoulders loose, hands resting where they fall. There is no reason to adjust anything. Breathing continues, slow, even steady. In, out. The sound of his steps fades quickly now, absorbed by the night almost as soon as it appears. Step, pause, step. The pauses lengthen again, just slightly. The watchman stops for a moment longer this time, standing, settled, unmoving. The town does not react. It holds its quiet the same way it has all night. Lanterns glow, shadows rest. After a while, he moves again. Not because he needs to, but because movement still belongs here. One step, then another. The rhythm returns, soft, familiar. The streets seem to repeat themselves gently now. Not clearly, just enough to feel known. Corners appear, then disappear, without calling attention to themselves. The watchman's awareness feels wider, less focused, resting across the space rather than settling on any one thing. Details soften, edges blur slightly. The town remains unchanged, comfortable in its stillness. Breathing stays slow, unremarkable. In, out. The watchman's steps continue, but they no longer define the movement. They are simply part of it. Step, pause, step. The pauses grow longer again. Standing becomes more frequent, walking less necessary. He stands now, for a while, without thought, without direction. Nothing follows. The lantern light nearby does not flicker. It remains steady, quiet, unchanged. Shadows remain where they are. After some time, movement returns again, gently. One step forward, then another. The rhythm is barely there now, soft enough to drift in and out of awareness. Time continues, but without shape. Minutes and hours no longer separate themselves clearly. The night feels smooth, continuous, unbroke. The watchman moves through another familiar stretch of street, or perhaps the same one again. It is difficult to tell. The distinction no longer matters. Breathing continues, slow, steady, easy. In, out. The sound of footsteps is faint now, almost imagined, then gone. Step, pause, step. The pauses linger. The watchman stands again, longer this time. His presence blending fully into the quiet. The town holds him there, without demand, without expectation. Nothing changes. Nothing needs to. After a while, he moves again, just enough to continue. The lanterns ahead glow softly, unchanged, patient. Shadows remain comfortable still. The watchman walks on, slowly, gently. The rhythm has thinned, but it remains. Step, pause, step. The night feels deep now, fully settled, unconcerned with movement. The town rests evenly around him, stone and shadow holding their places. Breathing stays slow, quiet, steady, in, out. The watchman continues, without urgency, without intention. The rounds carry on, softly, calmly, as the night holds steady and the quiet remains. Not changing, not advancing, simply holding its place. The watchman is still moving, but the movement has softened so much that it barely separates itself from stillness. A step arrives, quietly, then rest. A long pause follows. Breathing continues, slow, even unnoticed. In, out. The streets no longer feel distinct from one another. Stone and shadow blend together into a single, familiar presence. Walls rise and fall at the edges of awareness. Not close, not far, just there. Lantern light exists, but it does not announce itself. It glows, steady, contained, without drawing attention. Shadows remain where they have been, resting, unchanged. The watchman stands for a long while now, not pausing, not stopping, simply remaining. Nothing follows. Time no longer feels like something that moves forward. It feels wide, spread thin, unmeasured. Moments soften as they arrive, then dissolve, without leaving edges behind. Breathing stays slow, quiet, easy. In, out. The watchman shifts his weight slightly, just enough to remain comfortable, then grows still again. The town does not react. It holds its quiet evenly, without effort. Lanterns glow, shadows rest, stone remains. Another step appears, then fades. A long pause settles in after it, longer than before. The rhythm is barely there now, soft enough to drift in and out of awareness. The watchman's presence blends fully into the night. No movement stands apart. No sound lingers. Breathing continues. Slow, steady. In, out. The streets feel distant and close. At the same time, details no longer separate themselves clearly. Edges blur, then soften, then rest. The watchman remains where he is, without intention, without direction. Nothing asks to be done. Lantern light touches the ground nearby, and stays there, unchanged. Shadows do not move. After a long while, movement returns gently, almost by accident. One step, quiet, light, then stillness again. The pause that follows is deep, unmeasured, open. Time feels thin here, so thin that it is difficult to tell if it is passing at all. Breathing remains slow, even easy. In, out. The watchman stands again, longer now, his presence fully settled into the space. The town holds him there, without expectation, without awareness. Nothing changes, nothing needs to. The lanterns remain steady, their flames unchanged by the hours. Shadows remain where they are, comfortable, unmoving. Stone beneath feels firm, reliable, unchanging. Another step appears, soft, barely sound, then nothing. The watchman remains, without effort, without thought. Breathing continues, slow, quiet, in, out. The night feels wide, and still, and settled. Moments no longer arrive clearly enough to follow. They blend together, then dissolve, leaving only quiet behind. The watchman's steps do not return for a long time. He stands, then remains, then continues standing. The town does not respond. It does not need to. Lantern light stays soft, contained, unshifting. Shadows hold their places. Everything feels familiar and unremarkable. The night continues, without direction, without signal. Breathing remains steady, unnoticed. In, out. The watchman remains present, but barely separate from the stillness around him. Movement has almost fully faded now. Only presence remains. The streets hold their shape quietly. The town rests deeply. Time no longer presses forward. It simply exists, spread thin and calm. Nothing happens, and the night continues to hold, steady, unchanging, quiet. The night remains exactly as it is, still, wide, unhurried. The watchman is present, though it is becoming harder to separate his presence from the quiet around him. He stands, without shifting, without adjusting. Breathing continues, slow, steady, almost unnoticeable. In, out. The streets feel distant now, not far away, just softened, as though their edges have gently faded. Stone beneath remains firm, unchanging, holding its place without effort. Lantern light continues to exist, but it no longer feels like light. It feels like part of the night itself. Steady, contained, resting. Shadows remain, comfortable, unmoving. The watchman does not move for a long time. They soften as they appear, then dissolve before they can be noticed. Breathing remains, slow, even, in, out. The town rests deeply now, not settling, already settled. Doors remain closed, windows remain dark, unchanged, unaware. Lanterns glow, without flicker, without variation. The watchman shifts his weight slightly, so small it barely registers, then becomes still again. The movement leaves no trace. Silence stretches comfortably between sounds, long, unbroken, gentle. If a sound appears, it fades almost immediately, absorbed by the space, and forgotten. The watchman remains, not standing out, not separate, simply there. Breathing continues, quiet, steady, in, out. The streets no longer feel like paths. They feel like stillness laid gently between buildings. Walls rise, but do not enclose. They rest without pressure, without demand. Lantern light touches the ground, then stays, unchanged. Shadows hold their shape. Patient, content. The watchman does not walk now. He does not pause either. He simply remains settled into the night. Time feels wide enough to rest within. There is no sense of before or after. The night does not move forward. It holds. Breathing continues. Slow. Easy. In. Out. The watchman's presence thins further. Not disappearing, just blending more completely. Movement feels unnecessary now. Optional. Almost forgotten. The town does not respond. It does not need to. Lanterns remain steady. Stone remains firm. Shadows remain still. Everything feels familiar. Unremarkable. Safe to ignore. Moments pass. Or perhaps they do not. The difference no longer matters. Breathing remains quiet, steady, in or out. The watchman stands and remains standing, without thought, without effort. The night feels settled enough to hold him there indefinitely. No signal arrives. No change announces itself. The streets remain empty. Not lonely, just complete. Lantern light continues to glow. Steady, unchanged. Shadows rest, unmoving. The watchman remains present, but barely distinguishable from the space around him. Movement does not return. Only stillness remains. Time stretches. Thin, gentle, unmeasured. Breathing continues. Slow. Even. In. Out. The town rests. Deeply. Evenly. Nothing happens. And the night continues to hold. Quiet. Steady. Unchanging. The night remains as it is. Quiet. Steady. Unchanged. The watchman is still there, though it no longer matters where. Movement has faded fully now. Nothing arrives to replace it. Breathing continues. Slow, even in, out. The town holds its shape without effort. Stone rests where it has always rested. Walls remain. Streets remain. Lantern light stays soft, contained, unmoving. Shadows do not shift. They do not need to. Time feels distant now, thin, spread wide. Moments no longer separate themselves clearly. They soften, then disappear, without leaving edges behind. The watchman remains, or perhaps the idea of him does. It is no longer important to tell the difference. Breathing continues. Quiet, steady, in, out. Nothing changes. Nothing needs to. The night holds everything evenly, without instruction, without direction. Stillness settles completely. The space stays just as it is. Quiet, steady, unchanged by passing moments. Lights remain soft, sounds remain distant, and the night continues gently on its own. There's nothing left to follow, nowhere else to go, only the quiet movement of time. And whether you're still listening or already drifting, this place remains calm and waiting as the night carries on.